Welcome back to another SCP reading, dear researchers. Today we're going to be reading SCP-273, Human Phoenix. Now without further ado, item number SCP-273, Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-273 is held in an enclosure 5 meters by 10 meters in size, half of which is closed off for the subject's privacy. All major structural and facing materials of the cell are of fireproof and non-thermally conductive materials. A bedroll and other modest furnishings are allowed, provided they remain in the private section, and that all consumption of food be performed in the adjacent area. All windows from the observation room into the enclosure are composed of heat-treated glass of at least 1 centimeters total thickness, with an insulated gap in between. Heat and infrared sensors in both enclosure and observation are set to produce an alarm if any temperature exceeds 50 degrees Celsius. Observing staff are required to evacuate the room in such an event. Food in the form of raw meat must be provided every 12 hours for consumption, at least 2.5 kilograms per feeding. Other foods may be provided at SCP-273's request, provided good behavior continues. All clothing provided to SCP-273 must be either flame-resistant in nature or be of inexpensive make and fabrics. SCP-273 is not to be interacted with in person if it has not consumed a meal of raw meat of at least 2.5 kilograms in mass within the last 12 hours. In light of Incident 273-02, alcoholic beverages in excess of 50% alcohol by volume must not be provided to SCP-273, nor should any other flame accelerants be provided. All staff interacting with SCP-273 must be armed with non-lethal defensive measures. Lethal force should not be used. Description: SCP-273 resembles a middle-aged woman of Indian descent. DNA samples and medical tests indicate SCP-273 conforms to human normal in all other respects, despite the subject's abnormalities. SCP-273 feels no need to eat or drink, but is perfectly capable of doing so. SCP-273 has generally shown willing compliance and cooperation with the Foundation's containment and requests. SCP-273 suffers from what it describes as a hunger, which requires regular feeding every 12 hours. This hunger satiates itself through a form of remote combustion. This produces no visible flames, instead oxidizing the subject from the outside in, until reduced to a fine white ash. Metals are not consumed except under special circumstances. See Incident Report 272-03. When tested, the hunger demonstrates a preference for meat over other organic matter, especially live human subjects. SCP-273 exhibits no sign of conscious control over its satiation, and becomes upset when consuming live animals. In response to testing with D-Class personnel, SCP-272 screamed at OBS data expunged into the corner of its private enclosure and refused to enter the front portion for 12 hours. Addendum 272-01. In the event of SCP-272's death, the body becomes the center of a large conflagration, marked by a central pillar of approximately 1 meter in width and extending far upwards. After the initial flame subsides, all that remains of SCP-273's body is a pile of white ash with a corona of faint blue flame. The flame is not extinguishable through oxygen deprivation and requires no fuel. Over the course of several hours, SCP-273's body slowly reforms from the ash pile by consuming any source of raw material nearby, including the surrounding air. In this state, slow consumption of inorganic material has been observed. The new body resembles the old in all ways, with no signs of injury or illness. When SCP-273's body is completely reformed, it awakens with no memory of events after its recent death. Incident Reports 272-01. Date redacted. Location data expunged. The Foundation received reports of a thin pillar of flame exceeding 70 meters in height and resulting wildfires, witnessed in the vicinity of data expunged. Due to the anomalous shape and duration of the flame, a small MTF was dispatched to the location. Bodies of 2 deceased Caucasians, one male and one female, were found at the point of origin of the fires. The cause of death later determined to be severe third-degree burns. SCP-273 was found shortly thereafter, unclothed and covered in white ash, standing over a deer carcass which radiated anomalous amounts of heat. Carcass crumbles to ash and coals at a touch. SCP-273 was cooperative at this juncture and followed the task force out. 273 was then transported to Site Redacted for evaluation and containment. Partial transcript of interview with SCP-273. Interviewer Dr. Redacted. Forward, SCP-273 had been obtained the day prior and introduced to a temporary holding cell in Site Redacted. A video camera situated behind Dr. Redacted provided visual records of the interview. SCP: You're saying that I will be kept safe here, away from people? Doctor: Yes, 273. SCP: Thank you. And by the way, my name is... Redacted. You may use that instead. Doctor: Noted. Pauses, shuffling of papers is heard. What was the first thing you remember from when you were younger? 273. Long pause followed by a sharp inhalation. I woke up surrounded by flames and covered in ash. It was the first time, I think. Doctor: You remember nothing else from before that? How long ago was this? How old were you? SCP: Is it not proper to only ask one question at a time? Doctor: Answer the questions, please. SCP: I don't. It was a very long time ago, probably... Data expunged. Doctor: And how old were you? SCP: 30... Redacted. Years. That much I remember, and... Pause. I think I had made some great mistake. Perhaps that is why I am what I am now. Doctor: And what are you now? SCP: A demon. Note: The preceding interview transcripts omits 3 minutes 7 seconds from the beginning and all parts after the last line for a reason. Level 3 clearance or higher is required for access to the original recordings. Know that SCP-273 admitted in the former omitted fragment to involuntarily killing the 2 deceased subjects found near her point of extraction. SCP-273 also identifies the victims as old friends. Staff members working with or observing SCP-273 are to be reminded of this fact and of procedure for working with humanoid SCPs in general. Dr. Redacted. Instant Report 273-02, date redacted, location, Foundation site, agents redacted and redacted entered the enclosure of SCP-273 with intent to question regarding redacted. SCP-273 had earlier been granted a bottle of Bacardi 151 for personal use by Agent Redacted. It had been 12 hours and 37 minutes since the last scheduled feeding. Upon Agent's entry, SCP-272 demanded they leave. When they did not at first, SCP-273 became agitated, shouting at them and gesturing frantically. Less than 1 second after they secured the door, the bottle of Bacardi was observed to data expunged. Data expunged. Extreme damage to SCP-273's enclosure and observation room due to flames of unprecedented strength. Recorded temperatures exceeded, redacted in the thousands, degrees Celsius. Agent, redacted's death will be handled as per normal procedure. Agent, redacted, is still in recovery as of this writing. SCP-273's ashes have been contained in a airtight, fireproof safe. The damaged enclosure is to be repaired for future use in containing other SCPs. Incident Report 273-03, date redacted, location Foundation site. The fireproof safe was found to be ineffective at containing SCP-273. Severe corrosion damage to the interior and hinges of the safe led to breach of containment, followed by the resumed revival of SCP-273. 3 kilograms of raw pork was left in the room, and the door secured. Upon awakening, SCP-273 appeared disoriented, but consumed the offered meal as expected. SCP-273 then requested to return to its original containment. As said enclosure has since been repaired, this request will be carried out immediately. Addendum 273-03-2. SCP-273's activity has changed drastically since the event. It rarely leaves the private partition of its enclosure except to feed, and refuses to speak. Surveillance using redacted shows that SCP-273 barely moves when on its own, either sleeping or sitting against one wall. It shows classic signs of depression, despite having no prior indications of such a condition, recommending close observation for any additional changes in behavior. I do wonder what sort of... well, I guess the only word is magic has been cast upon this person, because no action is worth the punishment of immortality. Anyway, thank you very much for coming, dear researchers. It has been an honor reading for you. Good luck out there, and I hope to see you all next time.